It's always good to hear from the opposition fans. Our old friend Chris Hall from the Albion Analysis podcast, he sent us a video. He's playing in a charity match at the Hawthorns tonight, so he couldn't join us live. But this is what he made of the game.
In terms of the game, I thought I thought Albion started very strongly. Southampton came massively into it at the very end of the first half, and certainly the start of the second half. But I thought once we saw off your initial surge, I thought we were probably the better side over the course of the game. I thought we were a little bit unfortunate to probably not go away with a lead, and that could potentially be our undoing in the second leg because it's going to be extremely difficult. But I think Corbrand's comments afterwards were interesting. He seems to be ready to go for it in the second leg. I think he's very wary of the idea of sitting back and defending against you guys, because you obviously have a great deal of quality and can dominate the ball. And I don't think we will be passive in the second leg. I don't think that's what you're going to see from us. So it'll be an interesting second leg. It's obviously very delicately poised, and I think we're very much in it. But you go into it as favourites, but only slight, in my opinion.
Well, all that stands in the way of a trip to Wembley in the playoff final is a Friday night under the lights at a sold-out St Mary's Stadium. What could possibly go wrong? Alfie, how much of an edge will that home advantage be? Because it's not been great at times this season, let's be honest, but you kind of feel like the fans can certainly play their part on Friday.
Yeah, I think you say it's not been great at times this season. I suppose that probably is true, but at the same time, I think it's been a lot better, obviously, this season. It has been, in my experience before. I think that it's obviously going to be really important for people to get behind the team. I think you saw in a couple of moments at the Hawthorns where some of this passing around the back, it does nearly lead to problems and you get panicky. But at the end of the day, at this point in the season, when we've just got 2 games to go into the Premier League, you just have to accept that that's going to happen. That's the way they're tutored to play, and they're not going to stop doing that. And you just have to try and stay 100% behind the team. So I think the manager and maybe some of the players, I think this week will stress how important it is that they feel that supporters stick with them as they have done on the road all season, as they have done at home as well. And I think they would really appreciate people's support on the Friday night. I know that for a fact. So hopefully it's going to be an amazing atmosphere. It'll be obviously sold out, and West Brom, they made it a tough place to play. It was a good atmosphere on the weekend. I enjoyed the trip there, and we've got to do the same thing on Friday night. We've got to make it intimidating for them, make it difficult for them. I'm sure they will. It's going to be really important for Southampton to start better than they did on the weekend. I think that's for sure. If you start the way they did, sort of 15 minutes of constant pressure like that, it could get a little bit nervy, but they've got to make it count. It's just all going to be about managing the occasion at this point. I think Southampton, they are, in my opinion, clearly they are the better team. That they can be the better team. If they play to their best, they will win. But they just have to manage the occasion, have to make sure it doesn't get on top of them, as we've seen a couple of times, a bit like deer in headlights this season. But they can now look back at that bank of, I suppose, the 2 Leeds games and the trips to Hawthorns now and know that they can handle it, they can do it. And that's what they've got to do. So I agree with him that I think Saints are favourites. I think they're probably slight favourites as well. I don't think it's going to be a foregone conclusion, but I feel pretty confident.
We have got some big game experience to draw on a little bit now. Is it going to be about patience, Glen? Is that going to be the key?
Well, I hope we score early, obviously, because that would make West Brom come out a bit. I was interested by Chris's comments about Corberán's approach, because if they had got if they had won 1-0, it would have been low block Central on Friday, and that would have been a nightmare. So personally, I regardless of what he says, I still wouldn't be at all surprised if we go there and they've got 9 behind the ball at all times. It really wouldn't surprise me, though. Their best bet of scoring a goal is obviously pressing us. So it will be really interesting to see what approach they take at various points in the game. And if the score changes, then obviously that approach will alter. So I take issue with the fact he said they deserve to win, because I don't think they did. I think it was a draw, absolutely fairly. So I'm not take a bit of issue with that. But yeah, I mean, it will be a case of patience, and the fans have got to be patient as well. And if you can't, if you can't get behind the boys in this game, which is basically a cup final in its own right, then what you're doing there, that you have to be supportive of the team, whatever happens. And so I hope there's not an exodus on 83 minutes if the game's level. There is extra time, so stick around to the end. And
away goals don't count, do they?
No.
away goals don't count. So yeah, it will be an exercise in patience, I'm sure, because I honestly just cannot see Cour sending out a team to come flying at us in the first sort of 10 minutes like they did at West Brom. But yeah, time will tell. But yeah, it's going to be a nervy game. If it goes to half time at 0-0, then you're getting into the territory of one mistake loses you the game and throws the season in the bin. So yeah, we are going to have to be patient. But it would just be much better for everyone's heart if we could get an early goal. And I always feel that we're much more likely to win a game once we're gone in front.
We've seen quite a bit of West Brom this season, Steve. We've kind of agreed that we've got a couple of extra gears that we can go through. Have we seen the best of them, do you think? They're going to obviously come and try and nick a 1-0 win, but have we seen all that they've got to offer, really? There's no surprises.
I think so. I don't think there's any sort of major tactical adjustments that they've used in other games this season that we've not come up against. It'll just be a case of, okay, can they take advantage of their strengths against our weaknesses, which is obviously our defensive concentration at times. I would say is probably our sort of biggest Achilles heel. But at the end of the day, if we're on the front foot for the vast majority of the game, then suddenly that becomes less of an issue. So I think ultimately our plan A is going to be to go out there and dominate the game and make sure that West Brom don't have the opportunity to kind of spring anything on us. And if we can pass around their press, as we kind of got to grips with it eventually on in the first game, then yeah, I think there's then a few sort of pockets of space for the more creative players to get involved in and hopefully create some chances for someone to finish, because obviously chances were at a premium on Sunday. I think probably not likely to be that much more open, I wouldn't have thought. And I mean, as Glen said, I mean, the closer you get to the second half of it and it's still 0-0, then I think chances are even more of a premium, because, as you say, nobody wants to make that sort of season-ending mistake. But we'll see. I mean, maybe it'll be a case of like a basketball game where it goes end to end and it's utter chaos. You never know, but I think I would imagine that while both managers want to try and control the game, I think Courbrand's obviously a lot more happy sort of sitting in and counter-attacking, but I think it'll be a steady pace initially, and then middle of the first half we might pick it up a little bit once we've got our feet under the table, I suppose. But yeah, I don't think I'm expecting it to be sort of all action.
What's been said about Che Adams, Alfie? Because we can't really read too much into what Russell Martin says.
No,
I think you've highlighted this a few times, haven't you, when he's talked about players that might be on the bench or might be back in the squad and that they're nowhere to be seen. So that injury was obviously worse than we thought, but this could potentially be his last game at St Mary's. It's
a good point, actually. I hadn't thought about that. But again, unfortunately, the only information we get is off, obviously, Russell Martin when he speaks. And he said that he's hopeful that Che Adams will be available on Friday, but we've heard that story a million times. I'm obviously probably just being naive, but I do believe him. I think he probably will be back for Friday, hopefully, because I think they just miss him so much. But yeah, he obviously had a tight calf. Just a slight concern after Leeds that was obviously slightly worse. I think he didn't train much last week at all, really. But there's what, 4 or 5 days, maybe 3 training days in between yesterday at West Brom and the second leg. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that he'll be back. And Adam Armstrong looks like he's okay as well. The club Twitter have confirmed after what looked like quite a nasty gash on the face, which
So how did we even get that?
I didn't even notice that
yeah.
during the game. So I mean, there's two possibilities: he's either taken studs to the face, or I think someone said it was an elbow. But I don't know how it's caused that cut.
Well, because I remember he went off. I remember seeing him go off to the sideline. The ref sort of sent him across when we'd won a corner. So I assume it must have been in the immediate build up to that. But yeah, I don't remember any particular incident that could have caused it.
But there was one particular camera angle where it looks like it's a real sort of hole in the face. But I think actually when you see it, it's been patched up. It's just a slight gash, and he'll obviously be fine to play on Friday. So yeah, hopefully him and
he might have a mask on.
That's a good point.
We've not seen a player in a mask for a while. Glenn, I mean, what percentage fit does Che need to be on the pitch to play? I mean, he hasn't got to be 100%.
Instead of Sekumara, 5%. He can have a full. He can have a full body cast on, and he can.
His last game playing at St Mary's in front of the home crowd, he's going to want. If he's like 85%, 90%, he's going to want to play, isn't he? He's going to be gagging to get on.
Yeah, I would have thought that, as we said earlier, it will be can we get an hour out of him?
Yeah.
Can we get enough out of Che for Ross Stewart to play the second part of the game? Because you'd think with Ross Stewart, you'd probably be thinking now, okay, 50 minutes, an hour at tops. You've got to factor extra time into that as well. So if it's still 0-0, do if Che starts, do you let him go a little bit longer? Do you try and get him to 70, 75 or whatever? But it's a difficult one. And I mean, Russell Martin isn't going to give it away, to the opposition, whether Che's going to start or not, because, when they saw the team sheet, the West Brom centre-halves would have been absolutely delighted that he wasn't playing.
Yeah.
Regardless of who comes in, because Che Adams over the last couple of months has been really, really good and has been a right handful. So in the main. So no, I don't think he has to be. Certainly doesn't have to be 100% fit, but he's got to. We've seen it with Che Adams this year or this season. He's either very good or he can be very bad, and it's just, does he have enough confidence in whatever injury it is to be able to go out and perform to somewhere near his best? But I mean, I'm interested as to what formation we go with as well. Yeah. Do we go for 3 at the back, or do we go to the 4-3-3 again? I suspect we will keep it the same. But yeah, that'll be an interesting one, because that obviously affects how the forwards play. Do you have two forwards central, or do you have I don't know, someone like Brooks or Fraser coming into the team and playing wide? So so the way we line up front will be very interesting for a couple of reasons.
Do you think it'd be the formation that finished that game, Steve? Do you think we'll start with 4 at the back?
No, I suspect not. I think we'll go with the wing backs again. Just because we've now had, a game and basically 2/3, maybe even 3/4, with the wing backs, and looked pretty good against 2 of the better sides in this division. Whereas previously we'd gone 2.5 games with the 4-3-3 and looked a little bit lost. So yeah, I think we'll stick with the wing backs to begin with, and then depending on how things progress, might see a similar set of changes as we saw in the first leg.
You were nodding along, Alfie. Do you think it'd just be that one change maybe up front?
I suppose there is the element of how fit are they and how ready are they to go again. But with 5 days in between, that shouldn't be a problem. So, yeah, and also I suppose the point where even if someone's not, as Glenn said, you do it anyway. So, yeah, I think maybe one change, Che back in for Sekumara, and I'd be pretty happy with that. I think, like Glenn, I think said in sort of the opening statement, I thought all 3 centre-backs did well against West Brom in the first game. I mean, I thought Taylor came under a little bit of pressure in the second half, and obviously particularly at the start as well. And there was a couple of moments where Jack Stevens was a little bit poor in possession, and maybe some passes went out of play and things like that. Bednarek was excellent, but you just trust all 3 of them. I think in a big moment, I think that the manager trusts them as well, which is obviously critical. You aren't going to take Flynn Downs out. Joe Rebo and Will Smallbone are your best midfielders, with no question. And I don't think Ryan Fraser or David Brooks have done enough to say, I need to start, they could still be options. So yeah, I think it probably makes sense to keep it that way. But then that being said, you never know, do you? Because I know Russell Martin obviously likes to spring a surprise on a manager, doesn't he? I think when he thinks the manager has him figured out, he sometimes feels he has to do something to change that. And to be fair, he's had good success doing that. A couple of times when he has changed things around last minute, it's gone all right. They've got good big results. So I wonder maybe if there's a bit of that in the back of his mind, maybe just try and spring something on Carlos Cour. But they always say that they want to play the game that they want to play. They want the team that people focus on to be Southampton and not what West Brom have done. So I think if you keep it the same way and you're just better than them, then I don't think you need to make a change.
I think the quote from Carlos Corberan, which I kind of picked up on, was normally I have 15 minutes to prepare for the second half, and now we've got 4 days. I just worry, Glenn, is there a danger that we will overthink this game? I mean, we're kind of like wishing the week away, aren't we? But we're going into it. We know what we need to know. Nobody's going to get any fitter or any better. We've just got to pick the best 11 and go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's it was a 2-legged game, and now it's a one-off game. And we're at home. We've got a good home record. We've beaten them at home. So yeah, I mean, we got to talk about something. So there is always a danger of overthinking it. But the bottom line is we've got a home game to get to Wembley, and we're not playing Leicester. We're not playing a Premier League side. We're playing a league that's playing a team that's finished below us in the league this season. So we, in 3 games against West Brom, they've scored 1 goal, which was a scrappy effort from a free kick, I think, and someone ran it into the net. I don't really see as we've got anything to fear against West Brom. We can beat ourselves if we freeze on the day with the expectation and stuff like that. But that that can happen, or they can do a job on us. But I think in all things being equal, I don't think Corberan he's certainly not a genius manager. He's a very good manager, but it's not like we're coming up against a Jose Mourinho or something like that. So we just have to play the game and hope that the players perform and get it right. And Russell Martin doesn't go too mad trying to spring a surprise on. He's done that in the first game. We don't want any more of them.
No.
So, no, go out there. All things being equal, we should be okay.
Yeah,
but it's down to the players to carry out the plans on the pitch on Friday night.
I will say that I'm going to be a bag of nerves. I'm sure that some of you, I don't know, you've been there before in these situations, but I mean, this is the biggest game in for the club in what, maybe genuinely maybe 6-7 years potentially in terms of what it means.
Probably since Cup final.
Exactly, yeah, since the Cup final in 2017. So, what it means for the club and just the implications it obviously has on the way that the leadership can build for next season, or the way they can't. For players as well, for their futures, and for the manager as well. Given how much they've sort of put into the year, it's such a big occasion. And like Glenn says, the only way they can really lose is if they beat themselves. And they just have to hope that they open up, they play free, they feel the support of everyone behind them, and they do what we know they can do to get over the line.
What do you know about the preparations this week, Alfie? Is it going to be just about trying to keep it as normal as possible? It's a home game. It's Friday. It's a team we've beaten. Let's just not do anything out of the norm. They're not going to be going out for a Chinese again this week.
No, they didn't go for a Chinese. They went for a seafood anyway, I think. But what he did say was they weren't going to have a day off. Basically, after they had a couple of days off after Leeds, and from then on, it was pretty much in training all the time, whether that's actually physical work, whether it's just sort of study or your mind things. So I think it'll be a pretty full-on week. Obviously, there's no time for rest. There's no point resting now. You get the job done, then you've got 6 weeks off to live the dream. So I think they'll be in pretty much every day. They're training at St Mary's on Thursday, I believe, as just a bit of stadium experience to get used to the pitch again, ready for the match on Friday. Other than that, I don't think there's any abnormalities. I think it's just go forward as usual.
And when do you speak to the manager? Is that Friday?
Thursday, 4 p.m. Thursday, 4 p.m. Yeah. So
right.
After they've trained on the pitch at St Mary's.
Nice. All right, let's do some score predictions. If you're watching along live, by all means, chuck your score prediction in. I must just say that for the first time in a while, Alfie, Steve, and myself all predicted a draw. So we actually picked up a point, which has not happened for absolutely ages. So, Steve, I'll give you the honour of going first. How do you see this one working out?
Oh, God.
Hang on, before we go anywhere, is this a prediction at 90 minutes?
This is
Or what is it?
At the end of 120, surely.
Word. All right, yeah. So the end, yeah. Okay, so barring any penalty shootouts, I guess otherwise that just gets a bit complicated.
No, I don't think it's going to need extra time. I think yeah, got to have confidence in the better players. So I'm going to go for 2-0 win.
Okay, Glen, are you thinking it's going to be extra time then? Are you that worried?
No, not necessarily. Nothing would surprise me. You know, I go into this completely open, but I've got to put my neck on the block here. So I think we'll score, but I can't see West Brom not scoring. I just think that it's that sort of occasion that'll be nervy. So maybe we go 2-0 up and think the job's done. Then they get a goal back, and there's 10 minutes of sheer hell at the end of the 90, just waiting for them to equalise, whilst we pass the ball around the 6-yard box. So yeah, I think it'll be a nervy one, but I'll go for a 2-1 win.
And Alfie?
I'll let you into a little secret of the printing press. So we've obviously got deadlines that we have to fill newspapers by. And Friday night is a notoriously difficult one to get a late deadline. So we are able to carry a full match report if the game finishes in normal time. If the game goes to extra time, there's absolutely no time to fit a report into the paper, and we have to think of something else. We have to have 2 papers planned. So I'm really hoping it's finished in normal time, because I don't want to have to deal with that. So I'm going to go with a very, very nervy 1-0 win and hope they can get the job done.
and you get an earlier night.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 3-1, and my science behind that is the last time that the first legs, I think we mentioned, was 2011, wasn't it? They both finished 0-0. It was Swansea who eventually went up, and they won their second leg 3-1. So that's where I plucked 3-1 from. So it's not that I'm any more confident than anybody else. So keep those score predictions coming in. And yeah, we'll see how it all works out.